Today with us we have Ginny Delaitre, who is the founder and CEO of BDS Digital Agency.
I do what I call UX marketing, how to put user experience in marketing.
And how is UX being adopted towards agentic?
How do you use this tool in a human way? And that's really what it's all about, because when you do user experience, you still have human on the other side.
How do you improve the discoverability?
I think the agents are smarter. So they are more about the quality itself. So what this agent need is really actually go back to the basic and making sure the architecture itself it's stable and clear. And that's how they're going to read the page correctly and be able to do the action you want them to do.
Like Americans are just gonna prefer to tell the chat to do something and they'll do it, while in Europe they're still gonna be clicking buttons. Or how do you think the shift is gonna go?
You may not know it, but I'm French. So I actually, yes, I had a manual car until I was 28 and I moved to the US. So yeah, that's very funny. You ask this question because I am bicultural, so I see what is happening on both sides of the world right now.
Welcome to another episode of What About AI Agents. Today with us we have Ginny Delaitre, who is the founder and the CEO of BDS Digital Agency. They basically focus on UX and marketing. And she founded DBDS in 2021, and she's an expert in marketing, go-to-market, UI, and UX. She has pioneered a specific methodology for user experience, and she focuses and she believes that user experience should be the center of the and the heart of the product. So, Junior, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. So I think, well, thank you for this introduction. It was great. So yes, I'm Ginny. So right now I own an agency that is called VDS Digital Agency. And you're right, it's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm specialized in UX and in marketing, and I do what I call UX marketing, how to put user experience in marketing. And I also do some product development with my clients. So I have sort of a broad range of skills. And with the start of AI a few years ago, I started, of course, to use AI. So that's why I'm in the podcast.
What we are focusing on at this show are agentic workloads and the way that agentic is transforming the current state of things. Because 4 years ago, the UI and UX were the primary drivers of how users consumed information, of how users interacted with computer systems. These days, with the introduction of agents, what we are seeing are monotonous interactions, and we are seeing agentic interactions, which means a person types a command to a chatbot, and the chatbot performs a bunch of these interactions by itself and returns back with the result to the user. So the we are interested to basically what I'm interested to hear from you as a UX professional is how do you see the shift affecting how UX is being built, and how is UX being adopted towards agentic?
Correct. So yeah, so it's very interesting because all this new technology give us like open doors to do faster work and also better work. But how do you use this tool in a human way? And that's really what it's all about, because when you do user experience, you still have human on the other side. So you need to use the AI tools in a way that the result you get is really turned toward the users. So the way I use it is I have two ways of using AI. Is exactly that you say, like we use prompt and then we make comments. So this is really good in UX because UX is a lot of data. It's data oriented. So basically, what we get is, for example, you have a website, you get data from the users. You get data about what they do on the website, how they came in the website, inside the website, how they navigate, how long they stay on pages, and stuff like this. And all this data before AI was really difficult to analyze, or it took a lot of time. Whereas now, with these tools, we can just put the data and ask what are the result, what are the trend, the main things happening on the website, and get very fast result. And then that will say lead our decision making process and strategies because of the result we get from AI. So that's one way to do it. The other way is also to go further than that and say, okay, we have analyzed the data, we know what is happening, and now we can ask AI, and also with the new technologies like, for example, Codex, or the things that are coding for us, we can go further and now ask AI to apply this analysis that it got into the code in the development itself. So that's sort of how we can. There are various level, and I think people are touching, maybe trying, but we can go really far. And the most important is, and I think you certainly talk about that in your show, is inside all this process is to have a human in the loop, because we need to check at some point, and we cannot just say, okay, here are the data, make the modification. It's a process, and there is need a human inside the process at each single steps to sort of check what is going on and before moving toward the next.
Right. And to my point is now you have two types of entities browsing site. It used to be bots, it used to be humans, but now you also have agents. So how does that UX need to account for the agents browsing the site? So if I ask it to do deep research, how does it identify my content? How does it find my content? How do you make it easier for the for AI chatbots to recommend my product versus my competitor's product?
Yeah, and that's a very important thing, especially on when I do a product in the marketing side of my work, because you're right. It's like now we have agent looking at website. And what is happening sometimes, and we discover it very soon, for example, the news website will have this advertising blocking, or this advertiser blocker are actually blocking the agent. So some websites that were really popular ended up blocking the agent and lose like traffic. So reversely, we need to be very careful to not do that, because blocking the agent means that ChatGPT won't be able to read, like Gemini won't be able to read, and you will end up at the least, not even in their research anymore. So if you were first on Google before and you have this blocker or these things on the website that doesn't make the website good for agent, you can all of a sudden lose half of your traffic. So the way we do it is really first we have to use, the robot text, making sure the agent are authorized to enter, and then for some websites that are in React Native, I had to create HTML pages with the same content to make sure the agent is capable to read what is in JavaScript. So is able to actually get the content. Because if not, if it's a dynamic website that is too dynamic, the agent is not actually receiving the information and is not able to read the content. So what it does, it just reads the metadata, but it doesn't get the full deep research of what it is inside.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Even though they claim that they're using like modern browser agents to browse the pages, I have seen similar issues on my end as well, where they claim things but it's not true, and then it doesn't index you properly. And how do you make the content of the site more friendly towards the agents? How do you get them to just? How do you improve the discoverability? Have you seen anything?
So it's also a bit part of what we were doing before, because if you were good before, you were already doing some SEO. So when you were writing, for example, a blog article, even like 5, 6 years ago, you were writing this blog article for your readers, but also for Google. And if you were good, you were doing both, meaning that you were using keywords, you were bolding the keywords, you were making sure the blog article will be understandable for Google and for the users. So I think right now it is the same way, which is great with the agent. This is not like Google. We don't. Google was really like we need to bold. We need to make sure that the sentence is like really clear. We need to repeat the word over and over again. I think the agents are smarter, so they are more about the quality itself. And for example, Google, you could trick them before. You could just do a bad article and put the word over and over and over again. Some people were doing that, and just because it was repeating like it's X times, Google was like, "Ah, this is an article about this," and was putting it first. Agents are not stupid. So you cannot do that. You have to be like much more about the quality itself, and you have to be very explanatory. For example, if you have a concept, you cannot just bold the word. I think you have to explain the concept, making sure it is understandable by the agent, and making sure the agent understand the full, like, for example, if you write a blog article, it can be good to use the agent and ask for a summary of it, and see if he actually understand your point. Because if he doesn't, that means your article is not clear enough. So I think that's the difference. It's like we were already doing it, but now we have to do it better.
So almost like ask Hello ChatGPT to actually tell you what do you think about this article and how can I make you like it more so you recommend this. So, yeah,
It's almost this. Honestly, it's like be smart. You have the tools. It is right there. So it's like before SEO, it was difficult because, we had to use tools to make sure they comply for Google rules. But now we have ChatGPT. It's just available for us. So why not asking ChatGPT to go on your website, tell you what is happening, and then you can, tell him, okay, how can I improve what is going on, and how can I make it better for you? And that's actually what happened with us. We realized I had a website with a client, and I realized very quickly that ChatGPT was not able to read. And I was like, okay, there is an issue right there because we have like articles and ChatGPT was not able to grasp the article. It was just reading the title basically. And I was just like, there is an issue. So I asked ChatGPT why, and then he gave me, solution. He was like, okay, this is probably because it's too dynamic. And that's how by looking into ChatGPT why he couldn't read it, that we by the discussion uh come through a solution. So it's really like use the tools you have. Yeah, be smart.
be smart. So now let's shift gears a bit. I think this is an excellent topic, and we could talk about this all day. I mean, I read on Reddit some guy they build a site that covers specific insurance keywords, and then they generated like I think 1.2 million articles with AI, covering every little bit of it, and they were able to get they were able to pull millions and millions of traffic, even though Google says they penalize it. They really at this point I feel like the content has become so much AI that yeah they start looking at how valuable this content may be, and if your AI generated blog actually delivers value to a specific group of users, it would get recommended, right? But to your point, now when we look at the things like UX and UI design and UX and UI is also gonna have to change because of the agenda, right? How do we do that? Because we are used to clicking buttons to achieve objectives. But now, from my understanding, the shift is gonna be we're gonna be talking to chatbots again and asking them to do this. Have you actually encountered or experienced any of that? Or how is modern UI and UX evolving in that regard?
Yes, so I think it's really new, especially with ChatGPT 5 and the agent mode that just got out because before it was happening, but it was not available to the large public. So we didn't have a lot of issues. But what I'm seeing right now with especially with the new agent mode, um, AI is really clicking button for you. So this is sort of a shift we have, and I think nobody's ready for that. Because what happens is the websites are already not optimized for users. So the UX, we are talking about UX. We have already difficulties to make UX good for us. So now we have to make UX good for us, but also for the artificial intelligence, which is great is the artificial intelligence can catch on what we were doing on accessibility. For example, not a lot of people were doing that, but maybe some people wants to go that way and learn about it because I did a lot of accessibility in my life just because I work for people who were blind. I worked for the accessibility department in my school a long time ago. So I had some accessibility knowledge. And if you learn a little bit about that, for example, we had readers in the past, we were capable to interact with the page just by talking to the page. We had readers like capable to go through when you are blind and just making like action like this. So I think the agent is a little bit acting like this, and people want probably to go back and learn a little bit about accessibility because that will help them having a better UX for these agents that are actually like blind people. They don't see the page, so they don't know where the button is, and you have to tell them where the button, and you have to make sure the architecture is good. So making sure you have H1, H2, H3, all of these things that we were telling in the past that nobody respected. Now you have to do it. Because if you don't do that, not only for accessibility it is bad, for all these people who need this tool it is bad, but now it is also bad for the agent. So I'm hoping there's going to be a shift in that, and that's sort of how you need to do UX for the agent, I think. I may be wrong, but I think it's the direction to take.
Yeah, and even if you think about it, agentic accessibility, which is outcome oriented, can completely change the way that these blind people navigate these products or tools, right? Because they don't necessarily
Yes,
need these buttons. An agent can press these buttons for them. They need the outcome that these buttons bring them to, right? So like kind of outcome
exactly.
because like remember you have to pay like a lot of money to get those like tools like userway onto your website, and they would like give you that accessibility certification in the way. Nowadays, for what you're saying, it's almost like AI is great at navigating this stuff by itself, and it's great at telling people, well, this is what's on the page. So these standards would have to change. But to your point, they educated us the standards of how people actually interact with UX.
Yes, and these standards, which is funny, is like, AI, I know AI is very new, but all these standards exist for so long. It's just people didn't care before they actually need to care about it. It's like everything AI needs for good traffic is actually things that people should have done a long time ago, but they didn't. And now that they are losing traffic, they start to wake up and say, oh no, I have to do it because I'm losing traffic. So, no, I think it's really important to think about AI like a tool. Like these agents don't see the page, so it's not about. And if you learn a little bit about accessibility, it's not about colors, it's not about font, it's not about shadow, it's not actually about animation. You want to reduce the animation for accessibility. For example, if you had a very like animated website where everything bounce around, accessibility readers and AI agent are incapable to read this website because it's too bouncy, it's too like the architecture is fancy, and so they don't understand. So what this agent need is really actually go back to the basic and making sure the architecture itself it's stable and clear. And that's how they're going to read the page correctly and be able to do the action you want them to do.
So basically, having all those tailwind CSS classes on my front page makes it harder for AI to read my site because I have a lot of gradients and animations, but they don't really help anybody read it from that.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but okay. So going back to user experience, you also don't want to have this plain white page, that an AI will read perfectly, but then the user won't feel great about it. So you have to find a middle ground where the users are also happy with your website. So it's like don't remove all the animations. That's not what I'm telling. It's just, for example, if you have animation or something that is too dynamic, what I did for my clients, instead of removing what we had done, I just created an HTML static pages beside it that no one will see but the agent, and it worked. You know, you yeah, you don't. Yeah, you can do that. You can create a static page like beside the main page, and so you have two pages, and the agent go to the static one.
How does that work?
Well, that's the same page. It's just the agent is gonna go to the HTML one instead of going to the like React Native one.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that could be done. But that's it's like sending a plain text email versus sending a colorful email, right? Okay.
Exactly. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, and you see, for example, agent where I have an agent reading my emails and sorting them. And that's exactly the same thing. It's like if the emails is too fancy, too much colors, too the structure is not good, the agent will have difficulty to grasp the message. And it will be much better when it's just a simple plain email with like, hi and just the description and just like it will be able to answer that. Whereas if it's a newsletter with all this fancy stuff, it won't be able to tell me what it is about.
So this marvelous insight. I need to give that my site.
So yeah, you can and you can ask ChatGPT again. It's going to give you some insight on how to do it properly. And Codex is also able to do these kind of things. But yeah, that's what sort of the answer I had when I was making research. It's like, okay, if it's too dynamic, just do a static page and solved. So
That makes perfect sense. So do you think that we're gonna see the same level of segmentation? Because I was just thinking, like, when they had the cars, and then the cars were manual, then they became automatic, and like in the US, everybody has an automatic car, but in Europe, they have like a manual gear shift. Do you think the same segmentations happen with AI, where like with the UIs, where like Americans is just gonna prefer to like tell the chat to do something and it'll do it, while like in Europe, you're still gonna be clicking buttons? Or how do you think the shift is gonna go?
yeah, it's a very fun question. So you may not know it, but I'm French. So I actually yes, I had a manual car until I was 28, and I moved to the US. So yeah, that's very funny. You ask this question because I am bicultural, so I see what is happening on both sides of the world right now. I cannot say for other countries because you have countries that are really really poor, don't even have access to internet. I can talk more about what is happening in France, which is other side of the world, but high technology. France is very high in technological pole, and what is happening in the U.S. right now. So what I'm seeing is like French people and urban people in general are more careful about the new technology. Is it gonna be, like, slower to get into it just because they are sort of not afraid, but, more careful about data? And you see, for example, the government already putting rules about AI in Europe, whereas America is like free AI, everybody, everybody can do whatever. So there is already this difference of regulation. This regulation difference can create difference in behaviors, meaning that Americans will be maybe faster using, trying the product because there's no regulation, they can just do it freely. Whereas in Europe, people, because of the regulation, will be maybe more willing to try. I mean, I see my family, my dad is in tech, he loves trying, but using it every day, he use it every day, but he's a very tech person, but I see some people can have like, reluctance to really use it. So I will say yes, they will both use it. I don't think there will be this really difference between manual cars and automatic cars that you're talking about, but the path of accepting the technology and the level they accept the technology will differ for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, yeah, the reluctance of some people to adopt this technology. I mean, me and my family be using AI for everything. It's like basically it's being used 24/7. I would say at this point. But I can imagine some people are still reluctant to adopt it. So, coming back to the topics of UI and UX design. So, what are some of the best practices that you've discovered? Some of your insights that can share with our audience about adopting the UI and UX to the new age? Because user experience is the heart of the. And when the user experience does not match what the user wants, and it's not fluid or smooth, users tend to fly away from the product. And now it's becoming even more important because now agents are gonna say it's a garbage product, use this one instead. So like, how do we marry this? How do we improve it? What are some of your earned insights on this?
Well, I think what we need to be very careful is actually the adoption. You're right. The adoption of AI is different per people. So we need to be careful to not go too far in adopting the new technology. Of, I mean, you can adopt them inside your company. This is one thing, but pushing it on people is another thing. And I think people need to be very careful because I did another podcast, for example, and we're talking about the chat box on the side, the AI chatbot. And some people are really reluctant about it. They were like, this chatbot, if it's not performing well, it's useless and I don't want to see it here. So I think it's from a UX standpoint, you have to remember that all the UX strategies need to be done by human. You need to pause, you need to do this meeting like the whole time, think about UX, and then you can use AI to help you, but it still need to be like human decision, human touch. And then when you decide for any reason to adopt more technology on your own product, on your own website, you need to think about your end user and say, okay, maybe I need an alternative option. Maybe I need to offer this AI solution for people who love AI and will use it right away. But maybe I need to offer another solution also for people who don't want to use AI and who want to put everything their data covered. Because if you don't do that, people will make mistakes and then the user experience will break. So I think the hardest part right now is to understand people have different paths and that's always been the most difficult for user experience. And I was talking about that. Most of the people, when they design a website, they think of their main actor, their main user. And they do everything for them. And they never thought about the other people around them. And I think what is important for user experience and as a UX designer, as a UX researcher, is to really think about what are the different personas. Define at least 3 or 4 people, and then trying to make the user experience great for everybody. Of course, if you are a full AI product, you may not need other solutions because you are a full AI product anyway. But if you're not a full AI product, then you need to think about, okay, what are the other option? What are the other direction? How do I bring AI in a way that is going to be accepted by people? How do I don't, and of course, don't be left behind. And that's that's a weird thing to say because we are on an AI podcast, so I think everybody here knows that. But don't say no and refuse everything new too, because that's a mistake a lot of companies are doing, especially the old generation. And they're like, no. But if you say no, your company dies, your website die, everything will die. So it's like say yes, but say yes, and be smart about it. So that's sort of the shift that I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, to your point, not not everybody cares about AI, and we learned that the hard way. We at Doxy, we tried to position ourselves as the AI documentation platform, but then like recently we analyzed the last 400 demos we did like over the past like 6 months, and basically only 20% of people asked like for them like AI features were like a huge deal breaker, and about 50% what they thought were AI features were not what we thought were AI features, because we were always thinking like forefront, copilot, Claude Code gets everything like magic AI. These people are thinking, well, can it help do a spell check for me? And it's just I think it's a difference between how we perceive it as people who are running with this stuff and seeing all this innovation, and how the people who are actually in the market for your solution perceive. And the perception is changing too. When people see AI in front of a product, they think it was something that was vibe coded like 2 weeks ago in somebody's garage. And that's not something you would trust your enterprise data to your,
Yes, so I think it's very important. Just like when you do user experience, you have to remember you're in front of users, so the message you're gonna bring has to be different. Even if fully internally, you use AI and you know exactly what it is, you have to remember, and it is a big part of UX. You have to educate your users. UX and marketing is all about education. And you're right, most of the people won't understand right away, so you have to educate them, take them by the hand. And UX is a little bit of that. It's a little bit like they enter your product, you take them by the hand, and you show them the feature slowly so they understand, they test them, and slowly you bring them to something more. And UX has to be this journey and this workflow. And that's what I'm trying to bring also in my marketing, all this touch point and educating users and what am I doing and how I do it. And that's all what UX is about.
yeah. But I guess yeah, and to your point, if like UX does all the workflows in education, that agents would also benefit from it as they go through your application. They could also benefit from the same education, because it's all about teaching people content develops, make it seem easy. Yeah.
I mean, if you teach people, you teach AI. It's like, honestly, I think a good website should be able to be understood by people and by an agent. It's like, if it's good, there shouldn't be an issue for any of them. It should be like compatible for both. It's like a website should be, and I'm saying should be because it's not happening, should be for mobile and for desktop. It is the same. It's like, I think we should think about it like a responsive design. Before we had the mobile version and then we had the desktop version. And nowadays we should be at a point where a full responsive design is not true for everybody because I know how hard it is. But that's sort of the same idea. The fluidity between I'm on my mobile, I'm on my computer should be the same than I'm using the website by myself and the website is used fully by an agent. And we should have this fluidity between both.
This are incredible insights, Ginny. So to wrap things up, is like if people want to get in touch with you and they want to get use your services, because right now a lot of companies they are trying to move their websites over to AI, make like not their sorry, move their websites to be agentic AI friendly, and make sure that they get best of the both worlds. Because some of them haven't updated anything in like 10 years and they're losing a ton of traffic, so they need somebody like you to come in and help them. How do they get in touch with you?
Yes.
Who do you work with?
Yes. Sure. That's what I'm doing for the services right now. You will see everything on my website because it's the same. I need to update it, but that's sort of what I do for clients. So I'm UX lead, product development. I help people bringing their website up to date. I help people like bringing a better user experience on their website, but also on their application. I do mobile apps, UX. it's my specialty. So I do a lot of mobile apps. I do SaaS products, everything that needs user experience. And if you want to reach out to me, you can do it by LinkedIn. I'm Ginny Delaitre or Virginie Delaitre if you want to use my Monday name. And you can go to vdsdigitalagency.com. And you can also use Ginny at vdsdigitalagency.com to just send me an email.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining, Jenny. I'd love to have you back on the show in some time to see how things have evolved and changed. As I know this space is changing, and what we talk about now in 6 to 12 months, we are going to be thinking, "Wow,
I
like,
know. I know, I'm doing podcasts a lot, and I think what I say in December, it's crazy from what I say now. So no, you're right. It's evolving very, very fast. So I will be happy to come back and give more like in a year from now, saying, okay, that's what we say, and that's what is happening now, and I think that will be really fun.
all right." Well, everybody, this is Julie Daylet. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jenny. It was my pleasure to host you, and hopefully we get to speak to you again soon.